We're now being joined from Abuja by Mr. Moses Chule, the Director Monetary Policy of the Central Bank of Nigeria. Good morning and many thanks for joining us. What exactly is happening? Because if you look at, have an overlook of what is happening in the economy, that warranted the National Assembly asking the CBN governor to come explain some of these issues. For the Nigerian out there, they need an understanding into all of this. What's going on?
Good morning, fellow Nigerians. Great pleasure to be here this morning to share our perspectives on what is going on in the economy. Nigerians are quite aware about developments in the oil market. It's not new, and the central bank has consistently tried to share these developments, even in the communique of the Monetary Policy Committee and other communication media which the bank has had opportunity to access and present this position to Nigerians. Now, unfortunately, whereas oil prices have been depressing over the last couple of quarters, our tastes have not changed. Neither have our import bills dropped significantly. As a matter of fact, imports have been on the increase rather than dropping. The implication, therefore, is that it appears it is just business as usual. It's as if the times are still rosy, but it's a time for belt tightening, and every country that has been affected by developments in oil prices is going through substantial reforms and a very high level of belt tightening. And I don't think Nigeria can be an exception. We are going through very unusual times. This is what is happening. Our government revenues are extremely very low because of the low prices of oil. In addition, reserves are extremely very low. And given the demand of the economy and the stock of external reserves, there is a need to improve the demand management side of reserves and encourage Nigerians to produce for exports so that we can build a stock of reserves. Otherwise, where we are, it's like you have a bottle of Coke. Every sip you take, the bottle depletes. At a point, you have to drop an empty bottle because you've drank all the liquid content of the Coke. That's how external reserves are. As long as you are not increasing new reserves, or you are building up new reserves by reason of increased exports, at a point you will run out of reserves, and we have no option than to invite the IMF to come and bring all the conditionalities, and then we go through the reforms, and then Nigerians would record the structural reform, structural adjustment program of 1986.
Just a moment, allow me come in here.
As much as possible, other countries are already within that environment.
Let's look at this in the light of the regulations or the comments from the CBN or directive towards the BDC talking about sourcing of funds, and see how that can make meaning or make sense side by side with the free fall of the Naira. Is there a correlation with the CBN's policy?
Yeah, there is a correlation. Not so much as with the CBN's policy, but so much with respect to the reaction by the BDCs. The BDCs are financial intermediaries. They operate in the foreign exchange end of the financial market spectrum. But they are not supposed to be huge dealers in foreign exchange. They're supposed to meet the needs of people who desire foreign exchange in very small quantities. But here we are, we have bureau de change that are making huge volume transactions in foreign exchange, contrary to the terms of their license. When the idea of establishing the BDCs formally was floated, it was to take people off the streets into organized offices, into organized structures, just like it's in other countries. We never had BDCs in this country before until sometime in the 1990s when we established these structures. And essentially, it was to have organized structures around the foreign exchange market. But it appears what we have today is that BDCs have taken a life of their own, to the point that the Association of Bureau de Change Operators, which is supposed to serve as a self-regulating association, has taken on an entire life of its own, and they act as a trade union, making demands and saying we demand that the central bank reverses its policy. And these are extremely difficult times. We are calling on everybody to make sacrifices. Bureau de changes cannot be an exception. That's the true position of things.
Let me ask Mr. Chule, when you say they've taken up a life of their own, the question will be, how did they get to that point where they take on a life of their own when they're supposed to be regulated and supervised?
Yeah, thank you very much. That's an extremely very important question. You would well recall the global financial crisis, 2007, 2008. The financial system was well regulated as far as the regulators were concerned. But the institutions took on a life of their own, leading to the collapse of the entire global financial system. Society is dynamic, institutions are dynamic, and as innovations come, institutions evolve over time. So the broader changes we have in this country today are not the same institutions that we had. The moment they began to access dollars from the official window at the Central Bank of Nigeria, now they felt they could, at any time there is a policy by the bank that affects BDCs, the very next moment you see them raising rates in order to threaten the institution, to call them to discussions or to rescind the decision. Now that's a life of its own, a life of trust. They are no longer acting as if they are working in tandem with the regulators to build a very financial system. And it's really not very encouraging. It is not supportive of the financial system.
When you say the institutions are dynamic, the laws guiding the operations of the Bureau de Change in Nigeria, these are laws or directives that the CBN put together. I believe the CBN is supposed to be monitoring them. So if they have decided to take on a life of their own, how is it that the CBN waited until they got too, for lack of a better word, too large to be put in shape? Was the CBN failing in its responsibilities?
No. No, not at all. You would recall that consistently the bank has continued to fine-tune the regulatory framework around all financial institutions in the country, and not just with respect to BDCs. So the bank has never failed in its responsibility as far as regulation is concerned. What I mean by taking a life of their own is that these institutions have evolved. They have seen the central bank giving them access to the official window of foreign exchange with the hope that they would grant this access to end users. But you see a whole lot of complaints. If there is an increase in or a depreciation of the currencies today, it is often led by the BDCs. It is not so in other countries. We certainly do appreciate there's always a premium in any country between the official exchange rate and whatever rate you find in the BDCs, but certainly not the kind of thing we are having in the country today. And we like giving this example of Travelex. Travelex is a BDC. It is owned by foreigners. It is given a license just like any other BDC is given a license. But you will recall or you would see that if you walk into the office of Travelex today and demand for foreign exchange, the premium you're going to have over and above the official, that's the interbank rate, is going to be so small.
You know why?
You then wonder whether
Mr. Chule,
these Travelex are operating in a different world than in this country. So it's important.